The cold ultrasound gel spread across my slightly rounded stomach. As the transducer glided over my skin, a familiar wave of anxiety and hope washed over me. "They're developing nicely," the doctor said, her eyes fixed on the screen. Her tone was as flat as if she were commenting on the weather. "Eleanor Hayes, correct 43, and naturally conceived twins. You're a very lucky woman." Lying on the examination table, my fingers instinctively drifted to my belly. Lucky. Yes, that's what everyone said. Married for 18 years, I had waited from the age of 28 to 43. I had endured enough hormone injections to fill a medicine cabinet, gone through 3 rounds of IVF. The last time after the egg retrieval, I hemorrhaged. I almost didn't make it off the operating table. William, his eyes red-rimmed, had held my hand and said, "Eleanor, let's stop. It's okay. Just the two of us is enough." I cried until I couldn't breathe. Then, just as I had given up packing away every last baby item we'd ever bought, it happened. The 3rd month after I'd surrendered, I was pregnant. With twins. "William, did you hear that? The doctor said the babies are healthy," I said, propping myself up on my elbows and turning towards the door of the exam room. William stood there, holding my coat and purse. At 45, he was still a handsome man, fit and well-maintained. In his tailored suit, he looked every bit the man I had fallen for at first sight. But right now his smile seemed a little stiff. "That's wonderful. Just wonderful," he said, hurrying over to help me. "Careful, honey." His hand was warm on my arm, but for some reason a shiver ran down my spine. "You seem thrilled, Mr. Hayes," the doctor commented, casually typing notes into her computer. "Of course. My wife has been through so much for so many years. Finally." William's voice cracked with emotion. He knelt down, pressing his face against my stomach. "Hey, you two, be good in there. Don't give your mommy a hard time." The other expectant mothers in the waiting area, visible through the open door, glanced over with envious smiles. My nose tingled, and tears welled in my eyes. I would have cried too, if I didn't know. A week ago, I found a lab report tucked into the inner pocket of William's suit. The name on it wasn't mine. It read Chloe Smith, age 22. The tests were for HCG and progesterone. The results clearly indicated an early pregnancy, approximately 6 weeks. The date on the report was our wedding anniversary. The day William had said a last-minute crisis had come up at the office, and he couldn't make our dinner reservation. I had sat alone in the revolving restaurant at the top of the Hancock Tower until they closed, watching the city lights and telling myself that a man's career was important. He came home at 3 a.m. that night with the faint, sharp scent of antiseptic clinging to him. He said he'd had to take a client to the ER to visit a sick relative. I didn't ask which hospital. I didn't ask what kind of patient needed a visitor at 3 a.m. Eleanor, spacing out William's voice, pulled me back to the present. He had already helped me put on my shoes and was holding my purse in one hand, supporting me with the other. A textbook model husband. The doctor had stepped out, leaving us alone in the room. "I need to use the restroom," I said softly. "I'll walk you." "It's okay, it's just down the hall." I pushed his hand away and walked out of the room, my steps a little unsteady. The hallway smelled of disinfectant, a scent mixed with a low hum of anxiety. Pregnant women with bellies of all sizes waited, some looking nervous, others radiant. I steadied myself against the wall as I walked, a faint flutter in my abdomen, making my eyes burn. "Babies, are you really mine?" The restroom was around the corner at the end of the hall. As I approached the corner, I heard a familiar voice drifting from the half-open door of a doctor's office. It was William. "Dr. Evans, we have a deal then. 150,000. I'll wire it to your account this afternoon." "Mr. Hayes, the risk is enormous." "Make it 250,000. William's voice was low, but I knew that tone so well. Every word was a needle in my ear. I need one result. No matter when, no matter what test is used, it must prove that these 2 children are the biological children of my wife and me. The secret of the surrogacy has to die with you. But Mrs. Hayes, she will never know." William paused, his voice turning colder. "She's 43. Her body can't really handle a twin pregnancy. If I hadn't made preparations, she never would have gotten pregnant in the first place. Dr. Evans, you're saving a life here, not destroying one." I clamped my hand over my mouth, my nails digging into my palm. Surrogacy. $250,000. So that was it. The good fortune, the miracle, it was all an elaborate, expensive lie. The late nights, the smell of antiseptic, that two-year-old girl's pregnancy report, and William's almost suffocating attentiveness these past few months. It wasn't love. It was guilt. And Miss Smith, Dr. Evans' voice was hesitant. She's taken the money and is out of the country. She won't be back, William said dismissively. Once the babies are born, they will be mine and Eleanor's. You know how much she's suffered all these years trying to have a child. In a way, aren't I doing this for her? For her. The words echoed in my head. I trembled, my back sliding down the cold wall until I was sitting on the floor. The linoleum was frigid, the chill seeping up my spine. A sharp cramp shot through my abdomen. I looked down at my swollen belly. 2 lives were growing inside me, but they were another woman's children. William's footsteps approached from the office. I scrambled to my feet and rushed into the women's restroom, locking myself in a stall. The tears finally came silent and hot. I bit down on the back of my hand to stifle the sobs, the metallic taste of blood filling my mouth. Eleanor, are you in there? William's voice came from outside the door. I turned on the faucet, splashing cold water on my face. The woman in the mirror was a stranger, her eyes red, her face ashen. At 43, the fine lines around my eyes seemed etched deeper, a testament to a life spent in pursuit of a dream that was now a nightmare. To have a child, I had resigned from my position as CFO of a public company, endured years of alternative treatments, and subjected my body to 3 rounds of IVF. My health was compromised, my figure gone. And for what? A lie. Eleanor, are you okay? William knocked on the stall door, his concern a sickeningly false note. I'm fine, I heard my own voice eerily calm. Just some morning sickness. Then let's get you home. I'll make you some of that organic bone broth you like. Okay. I unlocked the stall and met William's worried gaze. He reached for my arm and I instinctively flinched away. His hand froze in midair. What's wrong? He asked. Nothing. Just tired. I slipped back into the mask of the perfect wife, even managing a small smile. Let's go home, honey. Okay. Home. He wrapped an arm around my shoulders. His touch, which once brought me comfort, now felt repulsive. As we walked through the parking garage, I spoke up. Honey, I'm craving that pecan pie from Sweet Mandy B's. William paused. That's all the way on the north side. It'll take over an hour in this traffic. How about I have someone pick it up for you tomorrow? But I want it now, I said, looking up at him, my voice soft and pleading. I think the babies want it. You know pregnancy cravings. He gave a resigned, indulgent smile. The one I used to love. All right. I'll go get it now. You go home and rest. I'll come with you. I can just nap in the car. I'd be bored at home alone anyway, I said. He hesitated for a second, then nodded. The car pulled out of the hospital garage and merged into the afternoon traffic. I leaned back in the passenger seat and closed my eyes, listening to the GPS voice instruct him to turn right. William's phone mounted on the dashboard buzzed. The screen lit up with a text message preview. Chloe M. Mr. Hayes, final payment received. Thank you. Wish you all the best. William glanced at it and quickly tapped the screen dark, but he didn't see me open my eyes. In the rearview mirror, my reflection was cold as ice. Honey, I said softly, do you remember what you said when we got married? William's grip on the steering wheel tightened almost imperceptibly, but his voice was smooth. Of course I do. I said I'd love you for the rest of my life and make you the happiest woman in the world. And have you? I'm trying. He glanced at me, his smile flawless. Yes, he was trying very hard. Trying so hard he'd spent a fortune to buy himself a child. Trying so hard he'd colluded with a doctor to deceive his own wife. Trying so hard he'd gotten a 2-2-year-old girl pregnant and then made her disappear. I closed my eyes again. The game is on, William. Are you ready to pay the price for all your hard work? The traffic on the Eisenhower was a crawl, the Friday evening rush hour a suffocating mess. The setting sun slanted through the windshield, casting long shadows across William's face, making the sharp line of his jaw look hard and unforgiving. The car stereo played soft jazz, his favorite. I once found even his taste in music impossibly charming. Eleanor, if you're tired, we can just turn back. William's voice was gentle as ever. I'll have my assistant go wait in line first thing in the morning and bring it over. How about that? I opened my eyes, watching the blur of cars outside. No, I said, my voice quiet but firm. I want it now. William was silent for a moment, then he chuckled. Okay, whatever you say. The pregnant lady is the boss. He reached over to stroke my hair, but I turned my head to look out the window, and his hand once again met empty air. I could feel his gaze on me, questioning, before he returned his attention to the road as if nothing had happened. This man was a master performer. For 18 years he had played the role of the perfect husband, and I like a fool had believed every line. I never questioned the occasional whiff of unfamiliar perfume on his suits, the exhausted yet strangely bright look in his eyes when he came home late, or the fact that his phone was never ever out of his sight. I had explained it all away as the stress of his demanding job. How stupid I was. A gentle kick from inside my belly. I instinctively cupped my hand over the spot. Two tiny lives, their movements so real. But this reality was built on a lie. Surrogacy. The word was a blunt knife twisting in my heart. Where was she now, that girl Chloe? On a sunny beach somewhere enjoying her money. Did she know the children she carried for 9 months would bear another woman's name? Did she know that the man who bought her body would turn around and pay a doctor to erase her from their lives? No, she probably didn't. William wouldn't let anyone know the whole truth. That was his way. Keep everyone in the dark, while he pulled the strings. Just like when he first pursued me. I was 28 then, the youngest CFO at my firm. Ivy League education, a comfortable family background. I had no shortage of suitors. William was just a mid-level manager in the marketing department, but for a whole year he wrote me a letter every single day. He memorized all my preferences. He brought me late-night snacks when I worked overtime and sat by my bedside all night when I was sick. He told me, Eleanor, I know I'm not in your league, but I'll spend my whole life proving you made the right choice. I believed him. My parents were vehemently against it, citing our different backgrounds. I threatened to cut ties with them to marry him. After we were married, I used my network to help him climb the corporate ladder from manager to director to vice president. Before my father passed away, he held my hand and said, Ellie, the one thing I worry about is you. Keep an eye on that boy, William. I told him, Dad, he's so good to me. Yes, so good. So good that at 43 he gave me this grand, life-shattering gift. We're here. William's voice broke my reverie. He had parked in front of the famous bakery. The line snaked around the corner. I had loved this place since I was a teenager. After we married, William would often wait in this line for hours just to buy me a warm slice of their pecan pie. Back then, he'd say, seeing you happy makes any wait worthwhile. Now, he said, Eleanor, you wait in the car. I'll go line up. I nodded without looking at him. He got out, adjusted his suit jacket, and walked to the end of the line. The setting sun stretched his shadow long and thin. The back of the man I had once loved so deeply now looked distorted and alien. I watched him standing in line, pulling out his phone to check emails. This is it. I quickly took out my own phone from my purse, not my usual one, but a burner I'd bought a month ago. William didn't know it existed, just as he didn't know I was no longer the blindly trusting Eleanor. I opened a recording app. The red button glowed. Then I used the burner phone to call William. The car's Bluetooth connected automatically. His ringtone filled the car. I watched him pick up his phone, glance at the screen, and answer. Hello, his voice clear and sharp came through the car speakers. Mr. Hayes, it's me. I lowered my voice, making it sound slightly muffled as if the connection were bad. Who is this? William frowned, glancing towards the car. I immediately ducked my head, pretending to be on my phone. About Miss Smith. We need to confirm a few more details, I said, my heart pounding, but my voice was so steady it surprised me. Are you certain she won't return to the States? Loose ends like this can become very messy. William paused, then walked a few steps away from the line to a quieter spot. I've made myself perfectly clear. She took the money, signed the NDA. She will never set foot in this country again. His voice was low, but the car's microphone picked up every single word, recording it onto my phone. The non-disclosure agreement has a penalty clause that's 10 times the payout. She's not stupid enough to violate it. And the paternity test after the birth. Isn't that what Dr. Evans has been paid for? A hint of irritation crept into William's voice. $250,000 buys me a guarantee. No matter who does the testing, the result will show that those children are biologically mine and my wife's. If there are any leaks, any mistakes, you and Dr. Evans will both face consequences you can't handle. Yes, of course. We have it all under control. The imaginary person on the other end hesitated. It's just... Are you sure Mrs. Hayes won't suspect anything? She's a highly intelligent woman after all. What if William let out a cold laugh? It echoed through the speakers, chilling me to the bone. Her, he said, the contempt in his voice making me freeze. She's been obsessed with having a baby for years. All the drugs, all the IVF treatments. She's emotionally fragile. A mess. You tell her she's pregnant with twins after all that, she'll be too overjoyed to question anything. He paused, his voice turning even colder. And even if she did suspect something, what could she do? 4. 3-year-old high-risk pregnancy with twins. She wouldn't dare risk the babies. She wouldn't dare destroy the miracle she's waited 18 years for. I bit my lips so hard I tasted blood. So that's what I was, in his eyes. An obsessed, fragile, stupid woman. Once the babies are born, all her attention will be on them. William continued, his tone back to its confident, controlled self. By then, who's going to care how they got here? She'll just be grateful to me. Grateful that I gave her a complete family. The person on the other end gave a dry chuckle. You've thought of everything, Mr. Hayes. The money has been wired. Get it done. Don't disappoint me. William hung up. I quickly stopped the recording and shoved the phone deep into a hidden pocket of my purse. My hands were shaking. My whole body was shaking. Not from anger, but from a profound, bone-deep cold. A cold that started in my heart and spread to every limb. The car's heater was on, but I felt as if I were in a freezer. William was still in line, his profile sharp, occasionally glancing at his phone. A picture of a successful executive. The young women in line were sneaking glances at him, their eyes filled with admiration. Of course. 45, in great shape, wearing a bespoke suit, driving a 6-figure car, and doting on his pregnant wife. What a perfect man. A perfect liar. I stared at him, repeating his words in my head. She's emotionally fragile. She'll just be grateful to me. So this was the balance sheet of our 18-year marriage. My devotion was stupidity. My perseverance was obsession. My trust was a flaw to be exploited. Fine. Just fine. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to calm down. The trembling in my hands subsided. I looked in the rearview mirror, fixed my hair, and reapplied my lipstick. The woman staring back had eyes that were bright, almost frighteningly so. When William returned with the pie, I was the picture of composure. Sorry for the wait, he said, opening the car door and handing me the still warm box. Your favorite. Eat it while it's fresh. I took the box and opened it. The sweet, nutty aroma filled the car. My favorite scent, now nauseating. Thank you, honey, I said, taking a bite. It was cloyingly, sickeningly sweet. Is it good, he asked, watching me with that gentle expression. Delicious, I smiled, swallowing the mouthful of what felt like ground glass. You're the best husband. You and your sweet tooth, he said, shaking his head fondly as he started the car. The car moved into the evening traffic, the city lights smearing into a blur of color against the window. I ate the pie in small, deliberate bites, each one, an act of swallowing my own heartbreak. By the way, Eleanor Williams said suddenly, I have to fly out to the San Francisco office for 3 days next week. Wednesday to Friday. So sudden I turned to look at him. An important project came up. I have to be there in person, he said, his tone perfectly natural. I'll have Maria come stay with you. She's great, and you're used to her. Maria was our housekeeper of 5 years. She was diligent and quiet. My mom said she's coming to stay for a few days. William's hands tightened on the steering wheel for a fraction of a second. Your mom's coming. You didn't mention it. It was a last-minute decision this afternoon, I said, lowering my eyes to the pie. She said she feels bad for not being around more during the pregnancy. This was true. I had called my mother from the hospital while William was paying the bill. I didn't say much, just that I missed her. She started crying and said she'd pack her bags immediately. Oh, well, that's great, William recovered quickly. With your mom here, I'll be even more at ease. I'll tell Maria to take the week off. In the parking garage, William parked the car, walked around, and opened my door, offering his hand. This time I didn't pull away. His hand was warm and steady on my arm. Watch your step, he said. William, I said, stopping in the dim light of the garage. I looked up at him. Do you still love me? He seemed taken aback by the question. He paused, then smiled. What a silly question. Of course I do. Who else would I love, and would you ever lie to me? The motion-activated light in the garage flickered and went out, plunging us into darkness. I couldn't see his expression, only hear the sound of his breathing, which for a moment lost its rhythm. Then the light came back on. The smile on his face was impeccable, his eyes brimming with a soft, watery affection. "Why would I ever lie to you?" he said, his thumb gently stroking the back of my hand. "You're the most precious thing in my life." Precious. Yes. A precious, fragile, obsessed fool who was easy to manipulate. I smiled, stood on my toes, and kissed his cheek. "I love you too, honey." Back home, William went to his study to work. I went to our bedroom and locked the door. I took out the burner phone. The recording was there safe. I put in my earbuds and listened to it again. Every word was crystal clear, including his last line, "She'll just be grateful to me." I saved the file, then uploaded it to a secure encrypted cloud storage service. Then, from a hidden compartment at the bottom of my vanity, I took out an old flash drive and copied the recording onto it. William didn't know about this compartment. The vanity was my grandmother's an antique from the 1940s with a clever hidden latch she had shown me as a child. "A girl's secret hiding place," she used to say. In 18 years of marriage, I had never hidden a single secret in it. I thought a marriage didn't need secrets. How naive I was. I put the flash drive back, deleted the file from the phone, and wiped the burner clean. After I was done, I went into the bathroom and turned on the shower. The warm water washed over my face, mingling with my tears. The woman in the mirror had swollen eyes, but her gaze was cold. "You're right, William. I wouldn't dare risk the babies. But you're wrong about something else. I'm not the love-struck girl you married 18 years ago. I'm Eleanor Hayes, the woman who made CFO at 28. The woman who could make seasoned executives crumble at the negotiating table. You wanted to play a game, fine. Let's play. Let's see who is grateful to whom in the end." A knock on the bathroom door. "Eleanor, you okay? You've been in there a while." William's voice laced with the perfect amount of concern. I turned off the water, dried my face, and practiced my smile in the mirror. Then I opened the door. "I'm fine. Just some nausea," I said, my voice soft. He reached out and felt my forehead. "Should I call the doctor?" "No, I just need some sleep." I stepped into his arms, inhaling the familiar scent of his cologne. The scent that once calmed me, now felt suffocating. "I'll go to bed with you then," he said, guiding me towards the bed. "William," I said, stopping him. "Your trip next week, it's Wednesday to Friday, right?" "That's right." "I'll be back Friday night," he said, tucking me into bed. "My next checkup is on Thursday," I said, looking up at him. "Can you be there?" His body stiffened slightly. "Thursday? I have a really important meeting that day. I don't think I can make it back." He kissed my forehead. "I'll have Mom go with you, okay?" "Okay," I said, closing my eyes. "Business is important. You focus on work." "Good girl." The light went out. In the darkness, I opened my eyes and stared at the ceiling. William's breathing soon became deep and even as if he were asleep. But I knew he wasn't. Just like I wasn't. We lay in the same bed, less than a foot apart, but a chasm deeper than the ocean separated us. What was he thinking about how to perfect his elaborate lie? Or was he thinking about that girl, Chloe? I was thinking about my checkup next Thursday. I was going to pay a visit to the good doctor, Evans, the one who had accepted $250,000. I couldn't wait to see the look on his face when I walked into his office alone on the very day William was conveniently out of town. William's flight was at 6 a.m. On Wednesday, I was already awake when he tiptoed out of bed. I lay with my eyes closed, listening to him move around the room. The soft slide of the closet door, the rustle of a freshly ironed shirt, the quiet click of his belt buckle. He never packed the night before a trip, always preferring a last-minute scramble in the morning. He called it efficiency. Now, I knew he just didn't want me to have time to look through his things. "Did I wake you?" He leaned over and kissed my forehead. I opened my eyes. His silhouette was blurry in the pre-dawn light. "What time is it?" "Still early." "Go back to sleep." He caressed my cheek. "I'll be back in 3 days. Call me if you need anything." I rolled over, burying my face in the pillow. I heard his footsteps fade, then the sound of his rolling suitcase. The front door clicked shut. I counted to 30, then shot out of bed, running barefoot to the window. Down below, the town car was waiting. William put his suitcase in the trunk, then glanced up at our bedroom window. I quickly stepped back behind the curtain, my heart pounding. The car pulled away from the curb and disappeared around the corner. I stood there, watching the empty street until my phone vibrated. It was a bank alert. "A direct deposit of $50,000 has been made to your account, ending in 8,000. 877. A text from William followed, "For my lovely wife. A little spending money for the week. Buy whatever you want. Don't hold back. Love you." $50,000 for a week's spending money. How generous. I stared at the number and laughed. 18 years ago, when we were first married, we lived in a tiny 300 square foot studio. My monthly salary was $8,000, his was $6,000. We saved every penny for a down payment, not even allowing ourselves a cup of coffee from Starbucks. Now my credit card had no limit, and he sent me 50 grand like it was pocket change. He'd said, "Eleanor, my money is your money. Spend whatever you want." I thought it was love. Now I realized it was just a guilt-ridden compensation. Or worse, hush money. My phone buzzed again. It was my mom. "Ellie, I'm on the train. I'll be there by noon. I'm bringing one of Mrs. Gable's farm-fresh chickens for soup." My eyes burned. I quickly typed back, "Drive safe, Mom. I'll pick you up at the station." I put the phone down and walked into William's study. His sanctuary. He said it contained sensitive business materials. Not even the housekeeper was allowed in. But I knew the password to the door lock, his birthday plus mine. In 18 years, he had never changed it. So confident. The door clicked open. It was a large room with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and a mahogany desk. The air held the faint scent of cigars, the kind he smoked on late nights. I walked to his desk and opened the bottom drawer. It was filled with neatly organized files. On top was a blue folder. I opened it. Surrogacy Service Agreement. Client William Hayes. Surrogate Chloe Smith. The date was 6 months ago. My hands trembled as I forced myself to read. The terms were ironclad. The compensation was $250,000 paid in 4 installments. The final payment was conditional upon the surrogate delivering a healthy info at a designated hospital. Attached were a copy of Chloe's ID, a pretty smiling girl of 22, and a full medical report showing she was in excellent health with no family history of genetic diseases. On the last page were the signatures. William's a familiar, bold scrawl. Next to it, Chloe's a neat, careful script. And a witness, Dr. Robert Evans. I took out my phone and photographed every single page. Then I turned on his computer. I knew that password too, our wedding anniversary. The desktop was clean. I checked his recent documents. In a folder named Project Budgets, I found an encrypted zip file. I tried 2 passwords. Both failed. On the 3rd try, I typed in Chloe's birthday. It opened. Inside were a dozen PDF files, all in English, but filled with legal jargon. As I scanned them, my heart sank further. These were contracts and legal documents for a surrogacy agency registered in Nevada. William hadn't just found Chloe here. He had also arranged for another surrogate in the U.S. through legal channels. The documents showed that this second surrogate was now 4 months pregnant, with an embryo created from an anonymous egg and sperm donor. A backup plan. He had a backup plan. In case Chloe didn't work out, he had another child on the way. So thorough. I forwarded all the files to my encrypted email address, cleared the browser history, and left the study, making sure everything was exactly as I had found it. As I walked out, the clock on the wall read 8:30 a.m. Sunlight streamed through the windows, filling the living room with a golden haze. I stood in the light, but all I felt was cold. At 11 a.m. I picked up my mom from the train station. She was laden with bags, and her eyes reddened the moment she saw me. "You've lost weight." "How can you be losing weight?" she said, touching my face, her fingers rough but warm. "You need to eat for 3. Mom, I've gained 10 pounds. I laughed, taking the bags from her. 10 pounds isn't enough for twins. You need to gain at least 30, she fussed, as we walked to the car. "Where's William? Why isn't he here?" "He's on a business trip. Left this morning." My mom stopped walking and looked at me carefully. "Your checkup on Thursday. Will he be back for it?" "No. An important meeting," I said, my voice even. "That's why I asked you to come. That boy." Mom sighed but said no more. On the way home, she chattered about things back in her small town, filling the car with a comforting sense of normalcy that helped soothe my frayed nerves. At a red light, she suddenly took my hand. "Ellie," she said, her voice soft. "Tell me the truth. Did you and William have a fight?" My heart clenched, but I smiled. "No, of course not. Why would you ask that? You're my daughter." "I know you," she said, turning to face me, her eyes filled with worry. "Your smile doesn't reach your eyes. When you used to talk about William, your whole face would light up. Now, It's like there's a shadow over you. My knuckles turned white on the steering wheel. Mom, I'm just tired from the pregnancy. Tired is one thing, but having something on your mind is another. She patted my hand. If you don't want to talk, I won't ask. But you remember, no matter what happens, Mom is here. Our family might not be as wealthy as the Hayes are now, but we don't let anyone bully our own. My nose stung. I blinked hard. It's really nothing, Mom. Don't worry. I'm not worried, she said, letting go of my hand. She went back to talking about the organic vegetables her neighbor had grown for me. I stared at the traffic ahead, and a tear finally escaped, rolling silently down my cheek. Thankfully, my mom was too busy describing the size of a zucchini to notice. On Thursday morning, Mom and I arrived at the hospital. The OB/GYN clinic was packed. Eleanor Hayes, a nurse, called out. I stood up. Family waits outside, the nurse said, stopping my mom from following me in. I'm her mother. Only the patient is allowed in for the exam. It's policy. My mom looked at me with worry. I squeezed her hand. It's okay. I'll be quick. I walked into the exam room. Dr. Evans was sitting at his computer. He looked up, and when he saw I was alone, he was visibly surprised. Mr. Hayes isn't with you today. He's on a business trip, I said, sitting down and handing him my chart. Thank you for seeing me, doctor. Oh, of course. He took the chart, his eyes darting around nervously. The examination proceeded in a tense silence. He was professional, his voice calm, but I couldn't look at him and he couldn't look at me. On the table, please. Let's do the ultrasound. The gel was just as cold. The transducer moved across my belly. On the screen, the outlines of two tiny humans were clear. One was kicking, the other seemed to be sucking a thumb. Life, vibrant and real, danced on the monitor. They're developing very well, Dr. Evans said, his voice a bit strained. Your amniotic fluid is a little high, which is common with twins. Nothing to worry about for now. What are the risks of high fluid? I asked. It can increase the risk of preterm labor or complications like gestational hypertension. But your blood pressure is normal. We'll just monitor it. I nodded. After the exam, as I was getting dressed, he sat typing at his computer. The silence in the room was deafening. Dr. Evans, I began. His hands froze over the keyboard. How long have you been a doctor? He turned his eyes uneasy behind his glasses. You must have seen a lot of pregnancies in 25 years, I said, looking straight at him. Have you ever encountered any that were particularly difficult? Like me, for example. A 3-year-old woman naturally pregnant with twins. A bead of sweat appeared on his forehead. It's rare. You're very fortunate, Mrs. Hayes. Fortunate, I echoed with a small laugh. I think so too, but sometimes in the middle of the night I wonder if this good fortune isn't a little too sudden, almost unreal. His face was now glistening with sweat. Not at all. There are medical precedents. Really, I stood up and walked over to his desk, leaning in close. Well, Dr. Evans, in your 25 years of practice, have you ever had a case where a husband paid a doctor $250,000 to help him cover up the secret of a surrogacy clatter? The mouse fell from his hand and hit the floor. His face went white, his lips trembling. The eyes behind his glasses were wide with terror, as if he'd seen a ghost. How did you? I stood up straight, took out my phone and pressed play on the recording. William's voice filled the small room. Dr. Evans, we have a deal then. $150,000. I'll wire it to your account this afternoon. Make it $250,000. I need one result. It must prove that these two children are the biological children of my wife and me. I stopped the recording halfway through. Dr. Evans had collapsed back into his chair, his face the color of ash. $250,000, I said, putting my phone away. My voice was very quiet. Dr. Evans, is your medical career worth that much? Or is your conscience Mrs. Hayes? He stammered, trying to stand, but his legs wouldn't support him. Please let me explain. Explain what I pulled out the chair opposite him and sat down, my hands folded on his desk, just as I used to do in board meetings. Explain how you accepted the bribe. Explain how you plan to help my husband deceive me for the rest of my life. Or explain how a doctor like you could so completely forget the Hippocratic Oath. I had no choice, he sputtered. Mr. Hayes, he's a very powerful man. I couldn't afford to cross him. So you crossed me. Instead, I stared at him. A 3-year-old woman who has been fighting for years to become a mother. You crossed these two unborn children, who you and my husband are treating like commodities in a business deal. No, no, that's not it. He shook his head, frantically sweat dripping down his face. Mr. Hayes said, he said you weren't well enough for the pregnancy. He said he was doing it for you. For me, I laughed, a harsh grating sound in the quiet room. For me, he finds another woman to carry his children. For me, he bribes a doctor to falsify medical records. For me, he sentences me to a lifetime of living in a meticulously crafted lie. I stood up, looming over him. Dr. Evans, do you have children? He flinched, then nodded. A daughter. She's in high school. Then imagine this, I said, enunciating each word. Imagine if one day someone told your daughter that she wasn't really yours, that your husband had paid someone to have her. How do you think she would feel the last bit of color drained from his face? I'm going to give you two options, I said, sitting back down, my voice as calm as if I were discussing the weather. One, you go to the hospital's ethics committee, confess everything, return the money, and cooperate with the investigation. You'll probably lose your job, but you might avoid prison. I paused. Two, I report you. I have all the evidence. Bank transfers this recording, and a copy of the agreement you signed with William. You'll lose more than your job. You'll lose your medical license. And probably your freedom. Your daughter is a junior in high school, right? How do you think her life will be with a convicted felon for a father? No. Please no, he whispered, slumping in his chair, completely deflated. I'll choose the first option. I'll confess. Good. I took a piece of paper and a pen from my purse and pushed them in front of him. Write a full confession. Everything. Then sign it and add your thumbprint. I handed him an ink pad. I want to see a copy of your submission to the ethics committee by 3 p.m. tomorrow. If you're a day late or a word short, I go to the police. His hand shaking, he picked up the pen. He was a man in his 50s with graying hair and an immaculate white coat, the chief of obstetrics nameplate, pinned neatly on his chest. The irony was staggering. 10 minutes later, he pushed the confession towards me. The handwriting was messy, but all the key details were there. I had him press his thumb in the red ink and stamp it by his signature. I folded the paper and put it away. As I reached the door, I turned back. Dr. Evans, does your daughter know what you've done? He shook his head, speechless. Then I suggest you keep it that way. Being a good father is harder than being a good doctor. You've already failed at one. Don't fail at the other. I opened the door and walked out into the bright hallway. My mom rushed to my side. What took so long? Are you okay? I'm fine, I said, taking her arm and smiling. Just had a long chat with the doctor. Come on, Mom, I'm starving. What do you want to eat? I'll make anything. Your spaghetti with that tomato sauce you make. The one with extra meatballs. Of course. We'll make it as soon as we get home. We walked through the crowded hallway, past the anxious and hopeful faces, through the smell of antiseptic and the quiet hum of new life. Sunlight streamed in from a window at the end of the hall, warm on my face. I looked down at my belly. Babies, Mommy did a terrible thing today, but don't be scared. I will protect you. In my own way. On Friday afternoon, my phone buzzed with a picture message from an unknown number. It was a photo of Dr. Evans standing outside the hospital's administrative offices, looking defeated and 10 years older. He was holding a large manila envelope. The text below read, Mrs. Hayes, the materials have been submitted. I'm resigning tomorrow. Please, I beg you have mercy. I deleted the message and blocked the number. There was no need to reply. He was a grown man. He made his choice the moment he took that money. My mom was in the living room, carefully portioning out the various foodstuffs she'd brought from home. Mom, I said suddenly from the couch. Yes, sweetie. If I got a divorce, would you be okay with that? Her hands stilled. She slowly straightened up and looked at me for a long time. Then she came and sat beside me, her rough hand covering mine. Ellie did. William hurt you. I didn't answer, just stared out the window. I don't understand all the complicated things in your life, my mom said softly, her grip firm. But I know one thing. You live this life for peace of mind. If you don't have peace of mind, all the money in the world won't help you sleep at night. You're not going to try to talk me out of it. I'm 43, pregnant with twins. 43, so what? My mom cut in, a fire in her eyes I'd rarely seen. My daughter is an Ivy League graduate, a former CFO. She's beautiful, she's brilliant. She can live without anyone. Her voice softened. Besides, you're not alone. You have me. And soon, you'll have 2 babies. The 4 of us will be just fine. I leaned my head on her shoulder, inhaling the faint, clean scent of her soap. It was the same scent that had comforted me every time I'd been hurt as a child. Thanks, Mom. Silly girl. Don't thank your mother. She stroked my hair. Do what you need to do. I support you. But promise me one thing. She held my face in her hands, her expression serious. Don't let yourself be a victim, but don't do anything reckless. You have those babies to think of. Be careful. I will. That evening at 7 p.m., William came home. A day earlier than expected. I was sipping my mom's chicken soup when I heard the key in the lock. Honey, I'm home, he called out, wheeling his suitcase in. He looked tired from travel, but his smile was bright. He dropped his bag and came over, kneeling in front of me and placing a hand on my belly. Did my babies miss their daddy? One of them kicked as if in response. See, they missed me, he said, looking up at me, his eyes shot with red but sparkling. Have you been eating well? Mom's here, I said. Just then she came out of the kitchen with a platter of food, freezing when she saw William. I thought you weren't getting in until tonight. The project wrapped up early, so I caught the first flight back, William said, standing up and taking the platter from her. Mom, thank you so much for taking care of Eleanor. It's what I'm here for, she replied, her expression guarded. Wash up. Dinner's ready. I made your favorite pork chops. At the dinner table, William did all the talking, chattering about his trip, the project, the gift he'd brought me. He was playing the part of the devoted husband even more so than usual. Constantly putting food on my plate and my mom's. How was the checkup on Thursday, he asked, casually placing a piece of broccoli in my bowl. The question I had been waiting for. I put down my fork. It was fine. The babies are growing well. The doctor said the amniotic fluid is a little high, but it's nothing to worry about. High fluid. William frowned. Is that serious? What did Dr. Evans say? He said it's common in twin pregnancies and not a big deal, I said, looking directly at him. But Dr. Evans didn't look so good himself. He seemed really stressed out. Probably overworked. William's hand, which was reaching for the salt, paused for a second. Is that so? Doctors are always busy. Right, I said, picking up my fork again. Oh, and he said I need a detailed anatomy scan next week and that the father absolutely has to be there. Are you free next Wednesday? Next Wednesday? William hesitated. I should be. I'll clear my schedule. Okay. A tense silence fell over the table. Then, my mom spoke. William, did you happen to run into Vanessa while you were in San Francisco? Vanessa was a junior executive at his company's West Coast office. We had met her once, at a company dinner. I did briefly. She's swamped with a new account, so we just grabbed a quick lunch, William said, his expression natural. My mom nodded and said no more. But I saw the knuckles of William's hand, the one holding his fork, were white. He was nervous. Why? Later that night, after my mom had gone to bed, I came out of the shower to find William leaning against the headboard, scrolling through his phone. Not sleeping yet, I asked, getting into bed. In a minute. He put his phone down and turned to me. Honey, did you miss me while I was away? I did, I said, closing my eyes. He moved closer, his arm sliding around my waist, his warm breath on my neck. That familiar cologne now mixed with a faint trace of tobacco. He had been smoking. He rarely smoked. I missed you too, he whispered, his voice low and thick with a desire I knew all too well. My body went rigid. Honey. His hand began to wander. William, I said, stopping his hand. I'm tired. He froze. After a few seconds of silence, he pulled his hand back. Sorry. I forgot. You need your rest. He kissed my forehead. Good night. The light went out. I lay in the dark, my eyes wide open, listening to his breathing slowly even out. 10 minutes. 20. Half an hour. He sounded like he was fast asleep. I slipped out of bed and went to the living room. Moonlight streamed through the windows. I went out onto the balcony, the cool night air, a welcome shock. My phone vibrated in my pocket. It was a text from Frank, my old colleague, who now ran a private investigation firm. I had contacted him a few days ago. Eleanor. Got a hit on Chloe Smith. 22, from rural Kentucky. Left the country 3 months ago on a tourist visa to Mexico. No record of her leaving since, but she's not in the Mexican immigration system, probably using a fake passport. Currently, her whereabouts are unknown. I replied, keep digging. Money is no object. Will do. Also, about William's trip to SF. Got something. The Nevada Surrogacy Agency is top-notch, hard to get info. But the surrogate is a 28-year-old Ukrainian woman. She's living in agency-provided housing with full-time care. A Ukrainian woman. William was certainly diversifying his portfolio. One more thing, Frank texted again. In SF, aside from business, William met with two people. One was the CFO of the SF branch. Female 38, divorced. They had dinner 3 times. One of those times was in her hotel room for 4 hours. The other person was a lawyer from Hong Kong specializing in international marital law and inheritance. My hand tightened around the phone. Do you have photos sent to your email? I opened my email. The attachments were blurry, but it was unmistakably William. In one, he was in a restaurant with a woman with curly brown hair. In another, they were walking into a hotel lobby. In a third, outside a hotel room door, she was on her toes, kissing his cheek. The timestamp was Wednesday night, 8 p.m. The night he texted me to say the project was tricky, and he might not be back until Friday. Tricky indeed. The last photo was of William, with a middle-aged man, in a suit at a coffee shop looking over a stack of documents. An international inheritance lawyer. What was he preparing for? A divorce settlement, asset division, a will. A sudden cramp seized my abdomen. I hugged myself, sinking into a patio chair. My phone buzzed again. It was a voice message from Frank. I played it, holding the phone to my ear. Eleanor, there's something else. I don't know if I should tell you. Frank's voice was hesitant. Tell me. I found out that 3 months ago, William took out a massive life insurance policy in your name. The payout is $2 million. The sole beneficiary is him. He also made inquiries about the specific payout clauses related to the accidental death of a pregnant woman. I felt the blood drain from my face. I got a photo of the policy. It's in your email. Eleanor, be careful. Please be very careful. The message ended. I sat on the balcony, frozen. It wasn't the night air that was cold. It was a chill seeping out from my very bones. Surrogacy, adultery, a $2 million life insurance policy. What kind of web had he been spinning? And what was I in that web? The prey or the pawn to be sacrificed? No. I touched my belly where 2 lives were quietly growing. I am not the prey. I am the hunter. The next morning, the doorbell rang. William was in his study on a video call. My mom was in the kitchen. I went to the door. A young woman stood on the porch, no older than 25. She was wearing a cream-colored dress and a light blue cardigan, holding a fruit basket. Her smile was gentle. Hi, I'm looking for William Hayes. I'm Vanessa from the San Francisco office. I recognized her instantly from Frank's photos. The woman from the hotel. Please come in, I said, stepping aside. She walked in, her eyes scanning the room, before landing on my pregnant belly. A flicker of something crossed her face. You must be Eleanor. William talks about you all the time. He says you're beautiful and brilliant. Does he? I sat down opposite her. He said you're the best wife a man could ask for. She said, her smile sweet but her eyes sharp. Meeting you now, I see it's true. You're glowing. My mom came out of the kitchen. Mom, this is William's colleague, Vanessa. Nice to meet you, Vanessa said, standing up politely. Hello, my mom said, her gaze appraising. The study door opened, and William came out. He stopped short when he saw Vanessa, but recovered instantly. Vanessa. What are you doing here, William? She beamed. I had a layover in Chicago and wanted to stop by and thank you for all your help last week, and to meet your lovely wife. This is my wife, Eleanor, William said, coming to sit next to me, his arm resting possessively on my shoulders. Honey, this is Vanessa. A real rising star at the SF office. I can see that, I said. Oh, William, you're too kind, Vanessa said, handing me a small, elegant box. A little something for the babies. I opened it. Inside were 2 sterling silver rattles from Tiffany & Co. This is too much, I said. Not at all. Just a small token. William helped me so much I don't know how I would have managed. Her words were polite, her posture demure, but I saw the flicker of challenge in her eyes. Well, thank you, William said, taking the box for me. You're too thoughtful. Vanessa stood up. I should get going. I have another meeting. At the door, she turned back, her gaze lingering on William. William, I'll be looking forward to your input on that Q3 report. Of course, we'll be in touch. The door closed. She seems nice, my mom said, eyeing the Tiffany box. But that's a very expensive gift for a colleague. Just professional courtesy, William said, handing the box to me. Here, honey. It's the thought that counts. I didn't take it. What's wrong? He asked. William, I said, looking him directly in the eye. Is she really just your colleague? The air in the room thickened. My mom froze a tray of tea in her hands. Eleanor, what are you talking about? William's face was a mask of confused innocence. Vanessa is just a subordinate. I've been mentoring her. Are you misunderstanding something? I took out my phone, opened my email, and showed him Frank's photos. Wednesday night, 8 p.m. The Fairmont in San Francisco. 4 hours. Tell me, William, what kind of mentoring takes 4 hours in a hotel room with a female subordinate? The color drained from William's face. The photo was damning. Vanessa on her toes, her lips almost touching his cheek. My mom's tea tray crashed to the floor. Eleanor. William finally found his voice dry and raspy. Let me explain. Explain what I said, getting up to get a broom and dustpan, my movements slow and deliberate. Explain the 4 hours. Or explain why she flew all the way here to give us a thank you gift. I put heavy emphasis on the words thank you. William's face went from white to red, then to a sickly green. He stared at me, a flicker of something dangerous in his eyes. Where did you get those photos? Did you have me followed? Does it matter? I returned to the sofa. What matters is, are they real? He was silent. Silence was an admission. Suddenly my mom moved. She strode up to William and slapped him hard across the face. The sound cracked through the silent room. Mom, I started to get up. You stay out of it, my mom's voice trembled. William Hayes, I gave you my daughter 18 years ago because I thought you were a good man. She gave up her career for you, she fought her family for you, and now she's risking her life at 43 to give you children. And this is how you repay her. It's not what you think, William started. Don't you call me Mom. My mother's tears started to fall. I don't have a son-in-law like you. Who is that woman? How long has it been going on? We're not together. William said, coldly wiping his cheek. It was a mistake. A one-time thing. A mistake. My mom laughed, a broken, bitter sound. A mistake that happens in a hotel room for 4 hours. Do you think we're fools? I'm not trying to fool anyone, William said, his gaze shifting past my mom to me. Eleanor, I was wrong. I apologize. But there's nothing between me and Vanessa. That night we were just working. An urgent issue came up with a project. Working so hard you had to get that close, I interrupted, holding up the phone, zooming in on the picture. Look me in the eye, William, and tell me you were just working. He stared at me. I stared back. After 18 years, we knew each other too well. I could see the lie in his eyes. He knew I could see it. Fine, he said suddenly, a bitter, cornered smile on his face. You want the truth. Here it is. Yes, I slept with her. More than once. So what? My mom gasped. When did it start? I asked, my voice terrifyingly calm. 6 months ago, he said, leaning back on the sofa, as if discussing someone else's life. She was a new hire. Bright, ambitious, and she understood things. Understood what my mom whispered. Understood how to seduce a married man. Don't be so dramatic, Mom, William said, lighting a cigarette. He never smoked in the house. We're all adults. It was consensual. Consensual, my mom repeated as if the word were poison. William, are you even human? Your wife is pregnant. I am human. I have needs, he snapped back. Eleanor has been pregnant for months. I'm a normal man. Vanessa was willing. I was willing. It's as simple as that. So it's my fault, I finally spoke. Because I'm pregnant and can't satisfy you, you cheat. Is that it? The hand holding the cigarette paused. I didn't say that. Then what are you saying? I stared at him. For 18 years, Eleanor Hayes has done nothing but support you. I used my savings to start your first company. I used my father's connections to save it from bankruptcy. When you had a bleeding ulcer from stress, I stayed by your hospital bed for 3 days straight. You wanted children, so at 43 I nearly died on an operating table for you. And now you tell me you cheated because you have needs. William stubbed out his cigarette. Eleanor, I'm grateful for everything you've done. But that was then. This is now. It's all connected, I shot back. You never loved me, did you? You pursued me for my family's resources, and now you're cheating on me because I'm old and pregnant and no longer exciting. Isn't that right? Don't be hysterical. Hysterical? I laughed, and the laughter turned into sobs. Do you know, William, for the longest time I really believed we had a love story. When my father was dying, he told me that people change. I told him no, not William. William would never change. I looked at the man before me, a complete stranger. My father was right. People do change. Or maybe I just never really knew who you were at all. Silence descended. Finally, William looked up, his eyes cold and hard. Since we're being honest, he said, his voice devoid of emotion. Eleanor, let's get a divorce. My mom looked like she was going to faint. What did you say? A divorce, William repeated, his eyes on my belly. The children will be mine. I'll give you a third of the assets. It's more than enough for you to live comfortably. I stared at him, a hysterical laugh bubbling up inside me. William, have you forgotten I'm pregnant? With twins. The law states that a man cannot file for divorce while his wife is pregnant. The law, he scoffed. Eleanor, you're an educated woman. The law is just a suggestion. Do you really think I can't find a way to make you want to file for divorce? A chill ran through me. What do you mean, I mean? He leaned forward, his eyes glinting. If you don't agree to my terms, I will countersue for full custody. I will present evidence to the court that you are mentally unstable and an unfit mother. All those years of therapy for infertility, all those antidepressants you took. I have the records, Eleanor. My blood ran cold. You planned this. Planned, he leaned back. Eleanor, let's just end this amicably. You take the money, I'll raise the children. They are my flesh and blood, after all. Your flesh and blood. I cut him off, and then I started to laugh. William frowned. What's so funny? I'm laughing at you, William, I said, my laughter dying. You, who thinks you've planned for everything only to outsmart yourself. What are you talking about? I'm talking about the fact, I said, each word a perfectly polished stone, that you're so sure the children in my womb are your flesh and blood. Time stopped. The expression on William's face froze, then morphed from confusion to disbelief, and finally to a horrified shock. What? What did you say? I said. I stood up slowly, looking down at him. Are you sure these babies are yours? Eleanor, William shot to his feet, his voice raw. What the hell are you talking about? Who else could they belong to? Why are you so upset? I asked, a cold smile on my face. I saw him flinch. If you can find comfort elsewhere, William, why can't I? You... He pointed a trembling finger at me. When I tilted my head, pretending to think. Oh, I don't know. Maybe during one of your many business trips. It gets lonely, you know. I ran into an old friend from college. One thing led to another. Shut up. His eyes were bloodshot, like a cornered animal. Eleanor, I never thought you were that kind of woman. What kind of woman? I shot back. The same kind as you. He was so furious he was speechless. My mom, meanwhile, was staring at me as if I were a stranger. So you want a paternity test? I continued, my eyes locked on William. Fine. Let's do it. After they're born, we'll get a test. We'll see whose children they really are. Fine, William hissed, his voice trembling with rage. Fine, when those results come back, we'll see who's crying then. We'll see, I smiled. But William, before you get that test, maybe you should consider this if they aren't yours. What will you do? Play the cuckold and raise my children with another man? Or I paused, watching the blood drain from his face. Will you have to? Admit that you're sterile and that the children in my belly were conceived with donor sperm. William's expression shifted from rage to sheer terror. He stared at me, his mouth agape. You know what? I walked back to the sofa and sat down calmly, picking up my cold tea. I know a lot of things. I know you paid Dr. Evans $250,000 to cover up the fact that you used a donor. I know the surrogate's name is Chloe Smith. She's 22 from Kentucky and she's currently in Mexico with your money. I also know, I set the teacup down with a sharp click, that you have another surrogate in Nevada. A Ukrainian woman carrying a baby conceived with an anonymous egg and sperm donor. You really went to great lengths to have a child, didn't you, William? A dead silence filled the room. William stood frozen, his face a mask of utter devastation. My mom was speechless, her eyes darting between us. How? He finally choked out. Does it matter how I know? I stood up and walked towards him. What matters, William, is that I know. And I have proof. I took out my phone and played the recording of his conversation with Dr. Evans. The clear, damning words echoed through our living room. Before it finished, William lunged for the phone. I was ready, stepping back easily. I wouldn't do that if I were you. This recording, along with Dr. Evans's signed confession, your agreement with Chloe, your contracts with the Nevada agency, I have copies of everything. Digital, physical, stored in multiple locations with multiple people. If anything happens to me or my babies, I said, my voice dropping to a whisper, all of it will be sent to the DA's office, the medical board, the IRS, and every major news outlet in the country. What do you think will happen to you then, William? He stumbled backward, his face as white as a sheet. What do you want? He whispered. What I want. I sat back down. I'm a reasonable woman. I'll give you two choices. I held up a finger. Option 1, we get a divorce. The children are mine. I get 2/3 of the marital assets. And you may recall the postnuptial agreement you signed, stating that in the event of infidelity, all of your shares in the company revert to me. You remember that, don't you? He remembered. My father had insisted on it after William's first big success. He had signed it with a flourish, swearing he would never betray me. Option 2, I held up a second finger. We don't divorce. We continue this charade. You can have as many women as you want, but the title of Mrs. Hayes stays with me. I get full oversight of our finances and the company's books, and I smiled at him. You will be the perfect doting husband until these babies are born. After all, they're your flesh and blood, aren't they? He stood there broken. Finally, he looked up, his eyes red. Eleanor, he rasped. You're ruthless. Ruthless, I laughed, tears streaming down my face. Compared to you, I'm an amateur. You would scheme against your own unborn children. You would scheme against my life. I took out my phone again and showed him the photo of the life insurance policy. $2 million, with you as the beneficiary. William, should I be thanking you for valuing my life so highly? He saw the screen and crumpled, collapsing onto the sofa. You know everything. Yes, I do. I put the phone away and wiped my tears. So choose William. Divorce me and walk away with something. Or stay and be my puppet. Your call. The clock on the mantelpiece ticked each second an eternity. He covered his face with his hands. After a long moment, he lowered them. His eyes were defeated. Option 1, he said, his voice a dry rasp. Divorce. The kids are yours. You take the assets. You take the shares. A wise choice, I nodded. My lawyer will draft the papers, and I stood and walked over to him looking down. Until these babies are born, you had better behave. If I find out you're planning anything at all, I whispered. I promise you, William, I will make you regret the day you were born. I turned and helped my stunned mother to her feet. Come on, Mom. Let's go upstairs. She followed me, her eyes wide with a mixture of shock, pain, and a strange newfound respect. As we walked up the stairs, I heard a choked sob from the living room. Behind us, William Hayes, the master of the universe, was finally completely broken. Upstairs in my room, my mom hugged me and burst into tears. My poor girl, how could he? How could he do this to you? It's okay, Mom. I'm okay, I soothed, patting her back. How can you be okay? Why didn't you tell me? If something had happened to you. But it didn't, I said, holding her face and wiping her tears. And from now on, the only one who needs to cry is him. My mom looked at me, her tears slowing. Ellie, what you said downstairs about the babies not being his, was that true or false? Does it matter? I smiled. What matters is that he believes it. Mom, from this day on, you must remember the children in my belly are William Hayes's biological children. Nothing and no one can change that fact. Not even him. My mom nodded, still looking dazed. But the surrogacy, the insurance. Don't worry about it, I said, taking her hand. I have it under control. All you need to do is take care of me and wait for your grandchildren to be born. She looked at me for a long time, then gave a firm nod. Okay. I trust you. My Ellie. You've grown up. Yes, I had. It had cost me 18 years of my life, but I had finally grown up. On Monday morning, I met with my lawyer. Rebecca Chen was 45, with a sharp bob and gold-rimmed glasses. She was my friend from law school, now a top divorce and corporate attorney in the city. Her reputation was fearsome and her fees were astronomical. Eleanor. It's been too long, she said, shaking my hand, her eyes softening for a moment as they rested on my stomach. How far along? Almost 7 months. Twins. Boy and a girl. Congratulations. Her professional mask slipped back on as she opened a file. I've reviewed the summary you sent. Do you have the evidence? I pushed a flash drive across the desk. Rebecca plugged it into her laptop, her fingers flying across the keyboard. She reviewed the recordings, photos, and scanned documents, her expression growing more grim with each file. When she finished, she took off her glasses and rubbed her eyes. Your husband, Mr. Hayes, is meticulous, but he's also incredibly sloppy. The Nevada surrogacy is quasi-legal, but since it used anonymous donors, you have no legal claim to that child. In fact, if this came out the wrong way, you could be implicated in a human trafficking scheme. My heart seized. But Rebecca put her glasses back on her gaze. Sharp, his arrangement with this Chloe Smith is a disaster for him. Private surrogacy agreements like that are largely unenforceable in this state. Plus, bribing a doctor to falsify medical records is felony fraud. And that life insurance policy, that's attempted insurance fraud at best. At worst, it's evidence of premeditation in a conspiracy to commit murder. She leaned forward. Eleanor, you have a choice. Criminal or civil. What's the difference? Criminal, we go to the police right now. Fraud, conspiracy. He's looking at a minimum of 10 years in prison, but it will be a media circus. You and the children will be dragged through the mud. And if the truth about your own children's conception comes out, you could lose custody. And civil, we use this evidence as leverage. He agrees to a divorce on your terms. He walks away with nothing. The children are yours, the assets are yours, the company is yours. He'll agree to save his own skin. The price, she said, her voice low, is that his crimes remain a secret. Can you live with that? Could I live with it? Of course not. After 18 years of lies, of being manipulated, of him literally plotting my potential death, I wanted to see him ruined, but I touched my belly. 2 small flutters, a reminder of my new reality. Rebecca, I'm a mother now, I said, meeting her eyes. My only job is to protect my children. I don't care if William goes to jail. What I care about is that my children grow up safe, healthy, and away from any of this scandal. Rebecca watched me for a moment, then smiled. You've changed, Eleanor. I had to. She pulled out a document. This is a draft of the divorce settlement. Full custody to you with child support. You get 2/3 of the marital assets, the house in Lincoln Park, the 3 condos, the cars, and all his company shares per the postnup. And given the extreme nature of his misconduct, we're demanding $10 million in punitive damages. I took a breath. Will he sign it? He has to, Rebecca said coolly. The alternative is a decade in prison and his company's IPO going up in flames. He's a smart man. He'll do the math. I looked at the document. It was all there in black and white. His entire empire built on my family's support, and my sacrifices would become mine. I have one condition, I said. I want a clause in the agreement stating that William voluntarily relinquishes all parental rights to these 2 children. No visitation, no contact. From now on, he is nothing to them. Rebecca raised an eyebrow. Are you sure? That lets him completely off the hook, responsibility-wise. I'm sure, I said. I don't want my children to have any connection to a man who was willing to let their mother die. I can support them myself. I just want him gone from our lives. Forever. Rebecca nodded slowly. Okay, I'll add it. A few minutes later, a new agreement was in front of me. I signed my name, Eleanor Hayes, the pen pressing hard into the paper. The moment I put it down, a wave of relief washed over me. The 18-year burden was finally lifted. Thank you, Rebecca. That's what I'm here for. She stood up and gave me a hug. Take care of yourself, Eleanor. And those babies. I will. As I left her office, the sun was bright. I stood on the street watching the bustling city, and suddenly felt lost. I couldn't go home, not yet. My phone rang. It was Mom. Ellie, where are you? Just left the lawyer's office. Good. Listen. William's back. He's locked himself in the study. Hasn't come out all morning. Don't do anything, Mom. Don't talk to him, I said. I'm on my way. In the cab, I texted Frank, find Chloe Smith. Fast. Money is no object, he replied almost immediately. On it. Have a possible lead. She might be in a private clinic in Cancun using a fake name. I put the phone away, a knot tightening in my stomach. William was predictable. He would be in his study, stewing, plotting, trying to find a way out. But he was out of his league. Rebecca didn't leave loopholes. But Chloe, that girl, was a loose end. A victim, yes, but also a potential threat. If William tried to use her or the child she was carrying against me, no. I had to find her first. When I got home, William was still in his study. The door was locked. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again. "Go away!" he yelled from inside. "William, open the door," I said calmly. The door opened. He looked like he had aged 10 years overnight. His eyes were bloodshot, his suit rumpled. "Happy now," he snarled. I walked past him into the study. The desk was a mess of papers, the ashtray overflowing. Rebecca sent the agreement. "Have you read it?" "I've read it," he said, leaning against the doorframe, a bitter sneer on his face. "You're ruthless, Eleanor. 2/3 of everything, and all my shares. You're trying to ruin me." "Ruin you," I laughed. "I'm leaving you with a condo, a car, and millions in your personal accounts. You still have your position at the company. If that's ruin, then what were you planning for me, Death?" His face went pale. "That's not... It was just an investment." "An investment?" I walked up to him. "You took out that policy 3 months ago, right after you signed the agreement with Chloe. You were planning for every contingency, weren't you? If I found out the truth and things got messy, a convenient accident would solve all your problems. You'd get the insurance money and the children. A clean slate." He didn't speak, but the sweat on his brow was a confession. I walked back to the desk and picked up a copy of the divorce agreement. "Sign it. Sign it, and your secrets stay secret. You can still be the successful William Hayes, just a little less wealthy." "A little less wealthy," he exploded, snatching the papers and tearing them in half. "Do you have any idea what those shares are worth? Hundreds of millions, my entire life's work. And you think you can just take it? Dream on." The pieces of paper fluttered to the floor. I watched him, my expression unreadable. "Go ahead, tear it up." "I have 10 more copies," I said, pulling another one from my briefcase. "You tear them all up, I'll have Rebecca send over another 10. You can't tear them up fast enough, William." He stood panting, a caged animal. "What do you really want?" "What I want is written right here," I said calmly. "Sign the papers. And then get out of my house." "Get out," he laughed, a wild, broken sound. "Eleanor, 18 years. And you just say, get out. What about everything I've done for you, what you've done for me?" I looked him in the eye. "For 18 years I paved the way for you. I used my family's connections to build you up from a junior manager to a titan of industry. Half of what you have because of me. I'm just taking back what's mine. As for what you've done for me..." I smiled, a cold, sharp thing. "You lied to me, cheated on me, hired a surrogate behind my back, and tried to have me killed." "Yes, William, you've done so much for me." He staggered back as if I had physically struck him, and collapsed into his chair. "Eleanor," he looked up, tears suddenly streaming down his face. "I was wrong. I know I was wrong. Please forgive me. Just this once. We can start over. I swear I'll never lie to you again. Your promises." I cut him off, my voice soft. "What are they worth, William?" He fell silent, just staring at me, his face wet with tears. I once loved this man so much that his every emotion was my own. Now watching him cry, I felt nothing but a vast, empty cold. "Sign it," I said, holding out a pen. "Don't make me lose the last shred of respect I have for you." He took the pen, his hand shaking, and scrawled his name on the signature line. Then he threw the pen down his body, slumping in the chair. Satisfied, he asked, his voice hollow. "Almost." I took the agreement and pulled out another document. "Voluntary relinquishment of parental rights. Sign it and add your thumbprint. From this day forward, you have no connection to these children." He shot up, his eyes blazing. "Eleanor, you can't do this, can't I?" I laughed. "When you were plotting to have me die in an accident, did you think about what was fair? When you were sleeping with your subordinate, did you think about what was right? Sign it. Or, I go to the police right now." He stared at the document, the fight draining out of him. He signed. He pressed his thumb onto the ink pad. "Now you can go," I said, collecting the papers. "You have 3 days to move out. I'll have the housekeeper pack your things and send them to your office." He stood up and walked to the door, then turned back one last time. His eyes were a storm of hatred, regret, and something else I couldn't name. "You'll regret this, Eleanor." "The only thing I regret," I said, meeting his gaze, "is not listening to my father 18 years ago." He left. I stood in the study, surrounded by the debris of our life together, and finally let my legs give out. I sank into the chair, my hands on my belly. Babies, Mommy won. But I lost too. I lost 18 years. I lost my faith in love. 1 year later, the sun filtered through the leaves of a sprawling bougainvillea vine in the courtyard of a small villa in Cancun. In the yard, a little boy was taking wobbly steps across the grass. He was a year old with his father's dark hair, but his mother's bright, curious eyes. His name was Noah. "Noah, sweetie, slow down," Chloe called out, following him with a bottle of water. At 23, the shadows had left her eyes. She was studying English and pre-nursing courses at a local college. After William went to prison, I had found her. She was broke, terrified, and about to give birth prematurely. I paid for her medical care for the best doctors for Noah in the NICU. And when they were both healthy, I bought this little house for them. I told her it wasn't charity. It was a responsibility. To her and to the innocent child caught in the crossfire. "Eleanor," she said, sitting down next to me on the patio. "I got a letter from the prison. William, he's been approved for a 1-year reduction in his sentence for good behavior. He'll be out in 11 years. I nodded, sipping my lemonade. "He asked about you," Chloe said softly. "And the twins. He wanted to know if they were healthy. If they were a boy and a girl." "What did you tell him?" "I told him you have a beautiful son, Arthur, and a beautiful daughter, Lily. And that they're perfect." She paused. He didn't say anything for a long time. Then he just said, "That's good. That's good." I hadn't seen William in a year. There was no point. The story was over. Chloe visited him once a month. For Noah's sake. She said he was changing. He was taking correspondence courses to get a paralegal degree. He told her when he gets out he wants to work for a legal aid society. He also said, Chloe looked at me hesitantly, that when he gets out, the first thing he wants to do is apologize to you. "He doesn't need to," I said, setting down my glass. "Some things can't be fixed with an apology, and I don't need one anymore." I wasn't angry anymore. The hate had burned itself out, leaving behind a quiet emptiness that was slowly being filled by something new. By my children. My son Arthur, and my daughter Lily. They were 8 months old, living with my mom back in Chicago. I flew back and forth, splitting my time. It was exhausting, but my heart was full. My phone chimed. It was a video call from my mom. On the screen, 2 chubby-cheeked babies appeared. Arthur was gnawing on a teething ring, and Lily was batting at a mobile, giggling. "Ellie, look," Lily said. "Mama?" My mom's excited voice came through. "Lily, say it again. Say mama." A string of happy gurgles. Then a soft, indistinct mama. My heart melted. I heard her. "Mom, that's my brilliant girl." I laughed, my eyes stinging. "When are you coming home? The babies miss you." "I miss you." "Next week, I promised. And I'm staying for a while this time." After the call, Chloe looked at me. "You miss them. Every day," I admitted. "But Noah needs me here too." "You should take him back with you," she said quietly. "I'll be okay." "No," I said firmly. "He's happy here. And you need to finish your school. When you're ready, if you want to come back to the States, we'll make it happen." She nodded, her eyes shining with gratitude. Across the lawn, Noah took a tumble and let out a surprised wail. Chloe rushed to him, scooping him up and brushing him off. His tears stopped as quickly as they started. I walked over and ruffled his soft hair. "No crying, little man. You're tough." He looked up at me and grinned, showing off 4 tiny teeth. This child born of a lie was so full of pure, uncomplicated joy. He deserved the world. He deserved a father who could be a better man. Maybe in 11 years he would get one. "Do you think—" Chloe started. "Will you wait for him?" I smiled and shook my head. "No, my story with William is finished. We have Noah, and that will be our only connection. But that's all. I have my own life now." I looked up at the vast blue sky. Life is like a train journey. Some people get on and ride with you for a little while, and some are there for the whole trip. But in the end, you have to arrive at your destination on your own. William was a passenger who had gotten off at his stop. It was time for me to continue my journey. That evening on the plane back to Chicago, I looked through the photos on my phone. Noah running through the grass. Arthur and Lily babbling in their crib. A photo of me on the courthouse, steps pregnant and defiant. And then much further back, a photo from my wedding day. I was so young, so happy, so sure of our forever. I didn't regret it. Not anymore. I couldn't, because every wrong turn, every heartbreak had led me here. To this moment. To this life. To my children. The flight attendant came by. "Dinner, ma'am?" "Yes, please." As the plane flew through the dark sky, I opened my laptop. An email from Rebecca was waiting. Eleanor, the Foundation's first case is a go. 3. 5. Year? Old stay-at-home mom, abusive husband. He hid all the assets. We've found her a safe place to stay, and our lawyers are filing tomorrow. She says to tell you thank you. She says you gave her hope. I typed back. Tell her she's not alone. Give her whatever she needs. I closed the laptop and looked out the window. Far below, the lights of a city twinkled like scattered diamonds. In the distance, the horizon was beginning to glow. A new day was dawning, and for the first time in a very long time, I was ready for it.